Welcome, everyone, to our Power Thinking, rejuvenating your amazing mind training for Wednesday. It is February 25th, 2026. This is our 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time edition, and I'm your moderator, Stanley Green. Always a pleasure to be with you and to help you build these essential strengths that will help us during those times when we may feel anxious, the times when, and in fact, there was a study that, and it's in my presentation, by the way, Power Thinking users of the app, go to notifications, scroll back to notifications just a few days ago, and it'll start off with $1,500 presentation. I have a 23-minute presentation. There are two parts. 15 minutes. I share with you what companies pay $1,500 an hour for me to share with them, and what I shared in Tokyo and in China. So that information is there in notifications. There's a link to a Zoom video presentation, which gives you kind of the why I do and what power thinking is all about, why I do what I do, and then another 8 minutes that helps you navigate the Power Thinking app. So make sure you check that out. And if you're not a Power Thinking Plus user, app user, then make sure you check out the Power Thinking app. So we put together this onboarding that takes you through the entire presentation, all of the inner strengths and skills. It shows you how important it is. There are a couple of exercises that we have you go through as well very quickly, but you will come away, saying, hey, this is essential, this is special, and then we'll take you through the app as well. So make sure you go to notifications, go back a few days, and you'll see it starts with $1,500 presentation, and click that link. Let me know what you think. So we're helping you to build these skills so that when you are feeling anxious or embarrassed or angry or feeling guilty, you have those negative emotions, we can help you to bounce back faster. No matter what the situation, you can bounce back faster. And so in this special presentation, Black History Month, as we wind down Black History Month, I could not get through and into another month without sharing with you one of my most important interviews, and that was with Dr. Emma C. Chappell, who unfortunately passed away in 2021, but in 2020, she agreed to do this interview that I will be sharing with you, who we shared it this morning, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you again. But what you'll hear in this interview is essentially what we talk about every week. We talk about the strengths that resilient people have, these evidence-based strengths, the emotion regulation, the ability to stay calm under pressure, the impulse control, the ability not to say or do the first thing that comes to mind, the empathy to understand another person's experiences and emotions. Listen for that in the interview. Listen to the self-efficacy. That is the most critical part of what we'll be doing here in this interview. Getting across the power of one's belief that one has control over their ability to succeed. The optimism. Never, as she was taking on this humongous task of starting a bank, a Black-owned bank, was there any doubt in her mind that it would be done, despite what the naysayers would say, which included her husband? There's the causal analysis, drilling down to the root cause of a situation or problem, and then reaching out. Listen for that. When she had major setbacks, listen for the times when she reached out and connected with other people, when she had the setback and the challenge, and she took action as well. So I'm going to have you listen to it, and then I'd love to hit the *6. Give me your thoughts about that and what she was able to do. What was the major takeaway in terms of those 7 inner strengths? What came across to you the most? And then, we'd love to hear, if you have some your own dreams that you want to pursue. And so we're going to go right to this interview. Thank you all. I see Christy is joining us from Florida. I see someone says respect, and looks like from another country. No, actually, it is Makadad Fatu Naeem. Great for you to join us on LinkedIn as well. So I wanted you to keep in mind that Emma Chappell, and she, in the picture, in the video that we're showing, she's with Jesse Jackson, and they're both at the grand opening of United Bank of Philadelphia, the first Black-owned bank, female-owned, and founded by a female in Philadelphia. One of the few founded by a African-American female in the entire country. But she was also, and you'll hear the inspiration for her getting started, but a lot of it came from the recently departed Reverend Jesse Jackson. And Reverend Jackson ran for president in 1984. And she, Emma Chappell, was the national treasurer for that campaign. And you'll hear how that campaign inspired her to go to higher levels and to make a greater impact. So without any further delay, let's get started with the interview with Dr. Emma C. Chappell from the February 26, 2020. Here it is.
Thank you for being on the phone.
Well, good morning.
So, Dr. Chappell, tell us about this dream that you had of starting a bank. When did that come up for you? But also, last night when I talked to you, there was something I never knew. And we've known each other for 30 years. It was when I actually watched a bank on the news go where they said that they were closing up a African-American owned bank in New York. And I knew that you were starting a bank. And at the time I was doing a radio show, and I decided I was going to jump in. And as opposed to sitting on the sidelines, like many of us do, I decided I was going to jump in and try to do what I could to help. So it was an amazing vision. Tell us when you first had that vision. But what I learned last night was that your own husband didn't believe that you can do this. So tell us about that. The dream first.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, let me tell you, as you said, we often encounter adversity when we're doing anything, especially when we're doing anything unique. And my dream started, I think, early in my life. I had the pleasure of working or being pastored by Reverend Leon Sullivan. And he would often talk about economic development and doing the things that you think, doing the things you like to do. And so it stayed on my mind. And as he introduced me to the field of banking. In fact, he got me my job as a clerk photographer. And that was one of the lowest jobs in banking when I started. And I got into that position, and I saw the opportunity to move forward to become a teller. And I was excited about that opportunity. And when someone got sick and couldn't come in, at that time we didn't have as many branches or many employees. So the young lady got sick, and I offered to take her position because I had been watching what she did all along. Even though I was a clerk photographer, I was just copying checks and deposit slips to send them up to what we call TransUnion at the time. And so anyway, I went on to become the teller, and as I became a teller, I met so many people, and I really started enjoying banking. Just got to the point I loved it because I was able to talk to a lot of people, and oftentimes the customers would invite me to events and things of that sort and ask me to be a part of different things. And I was asked to be an officer at the NAACP in Philadelphia by a fellow named Al Deal. And he was excited. He saw my enthusiasm for working with the public, and I would, after I worked at the bank, I started going to NAACP meetings and getting involved in the civil rights movement. And so I really enjoyed not only banking, but I also enjoyed the public and working with the community to help them do things that they couldn't otherwise do, to have access to opportunity. And so my role in the NAACP continued for years, and we used to do a lot of upfront contesting to situations that were adverse for our people. And so on one side, I was in banking and doing something that was very strict and very regulated, and on the other side, I was working in the community and fighting for the rights of African Americans.
Mm-hmm. Well, so tell us about many younger people on the line, and some maybe in their as early as in their 20s, who may have watched programs and learned in school about this thing called the civil rights movement. So you experienced that, you were there. What was happening there that needed to be changed?
Well, oftentimes with Reverend Sullivan, he founded the what do you call it, apartments for people who could not, especially low-income people who could not get apartments. So we, at the church, we started something called the 1036 plan, and people would give $10 a month for 36 months in order to build enough capital to buy a building or to construct a building. And so that was my first opportunity to work with Reverend Leon Sullivan, who at the time was a real giant in this city, and was doing all kinds of
and in the country,
in the country, in fact, internationally, because later on I got to go to Africa, and when I went there, I saw farms that he created for the people in Africa to grow their own food. So anyway, getting back to the story, we did that, and I saw how you could accumulate capital, and with that capital, create something that was beautiful. And this was before he started OIC and Opportunity Industrialization Center, OIC.
Right.
And so he had given me a test early in my life as a kid, and in that test, in the basement of our church, he saw how much I loved math, and once he saw that I had almost 100% right, he decided that I was to be a banker. And
this was in what time frame? Was it the 50s, the 40s, 50s, 60s?
In the late 50s, early 60s. Yes.
Wow.
In the early 60s. Yeah, 59, 61. 59, 61, around that time. And so he decided he said, I want you to stay in banking for 5 years. And I got in, as I said earlier, I got in banking, started working as a teller, and I enjoyed it so much and saw how much help people could get from their banking. And so I stayed in banking and went back to school and continued my education so that I could rise through the ranks. I kept seeing these positions that I wanted to do. But the interesting thing was that when I would ask for a promotion and I thought I deserved one, they would tell me, no, we can't take you off the teller line because our customers love you too much. And so I had to stay as a teller longer than I had planned.
Right.
So anyway, they say, we can't take you off the teller line, because what would happen is the first African-American woman, even as a teller on the line, a lot of the African-American customers would come to me, so I would have the longest line in the bank on any given day.
Right.
And so I really found that I loved banking, and I was going to stay in it. And so I continued to prepare myself for the next position and the next position. And one day I just decided, I said, I'm going to be a bank president. I'm going to work towards being a bank president, because they have all the power.
But wait a minute. Did you ever share that? Did you ever share that thought, that dream with anyone?
I did. I remember saying this, and this is as I went through assistant vice president. First it was assistant treasurer, and then assistant vice president, and then vice president. Then I got a lot of recognition, and they even allowed me to take a leave of absence to go with the Model Cities program to help them get the economic development arm of Model Cities up and running. And so the bank was very generous to me. They paid for me to get my master's degree, and so was able to talk with a lot of the executives because at one level I got into loans, commercial loans, and used to do a lot of the analysis work. And so I worked directly with the big wigs, so to speak, and I would do the analysis, spread the statements, and make recommendations for people to get loans, especially corporate loans. And so I went from there to making the loans myself. And so I had an opportunity to work with a lot of the high-ranking officers of the bank. And I told them one day, I said, I'm going to be president of the bank. And the chairman of the board said to me, I'm so glad you don't want to be chairman. And the president fell out. They started looking at me as suspect, so they saw then that I really intended to rise to the top of banking.
And so, what made you believe that, especially during those times, that you could be a banker? What was it about your belief that made you think that not only you could be a bank president, but one day actually start your own bank?
And to run, I ran the bank for 10 years. I was the CEO,
right.
Executive officer for 10 years. What made me think that I could do it is, I don't know, just the fact that I felt that I could do whatever I put my mind to. I really felt that I could, whatever, because most times if I really put my mind to it and worked hard, I could do it. I really felt that I could achieve it. And so it's almost like you make a plan for your life. And it was a mental plan. I didn't write it down like people suggest today that you write down your plan. But I kept in my mind what I wanted to do. And so I worked toward that desire, that dream. And that was my dream. And I went back to school and got my master's in banking and then decided that the time was right. And one of the things that also let me know that I could do it is that we had to create a bank on digitally. And our study group, had the most successful bank. And I felt if we could do that digitally, we could do that. I could do that in person. And then I was asked to be national treasurer for Jesse Jackson for president campaign. And the bank allowed me to take another leave of absence to do that. And we traveled around the country. This was when he ran in 1984. And we traveled around the country and we raised something like $12 million. And back then, that was a lot of money. And especially for a campaign. It was a campaign where he was making history, showing that African American could become president of the United States. And so we traveled around to different states, different cities, all over the place for a good time from 83 to 84. And raising that money, he raised it in small amounts of money. And it ended up being $12 million. And so I felt, well, what the hell, if we could do that for an idea, for someone who wanted to prove that he could be an African American president of the United States and not thinking that we could really make it, why can't we do something to improve our own economic destiny? And that's when I decided to get back, stay in my lane, and start working toward the creation of a bank.
So this was roughly 1984, and this part I didn't know, and there's things that I'm finding about you now that 30 years ago when we did an interview on the radio, I didn't know. So was that moment when you decided around 84 you started a bank, and the bank actually started or opened up, and I was at the grand opening, and thanks for inviting me, in 1992. So from 84 to 92, you held on to that, and you kept pushing for that. And so it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in a year. It didn't happen in 2 years. It didn't happen in 5 years. and yet you kept going.
It really happened. It really happened in 5 years because what happened is from '84 to '87, I stayed in Washington after the campaign. We didn't win,
Mm-hmm.
and we started
Mm-hmm.
something called the Rainbow Coalition. And I
Mm-hmm.
stayed there with the Rainbow Coalition, helped get that off the ground. And so I came back to banking in '85, from
Okay.
'83 to '85. It was a 2-year leave of absence. And I came back to my job as a commercial lender at Continental Bank. And I enjoyed that job, and things went along well when a group of people approached me and said that we want to start an African American run bank, owned bank in Philadelphia. And that was headed up by Malcolm Pryor, if you remember him.
I remember
And
Malcolm. Yes.
Malcolm, and it was a diverse group, about 6 people, lawyers and accountants, and Malcolm. And they said, we think we should start an African American owned bank. We have the money to provide the equity, and all we want you to do is to agree to run the bank. They said, because we have done a survey, and 9 out of 10 people said that in this city said that you would be the ideal person to run the bank. And so naturally, I got excited about that, and we started working together to create the plan to start the bank. And right as we were doing that, and that was in 1987, just as we were doing that, October of '87, the stock market crashed. And
Adversity.
the money, that's right. And that's adversity. And the money dried up. I had no money to start the bank. But I had been talking in the community about us, and on your radio show and others, about the idea of taking control of our own financial destiny and making sure that we had someone who had the seat at their table of power in the city of Philadelphia. And so I was so disappointed that the stock market crashed, and the people who said they were going to put the money up, now we're not going to put the money up. And I had was halfway through creating the plan to get the bank going, and had it all spread out on my dining room table. I'll never forget. And trying to get it going, and they said, we just are not going to invest it this time. And it made sense. I understood it, but it hurt. It really hurt.
Yeah.
And so, but I continued to develop the plan and put it on hold. And then in 1989, 2 years later, I started talking again about why are we waiting for someone else to put the money? We as a community should put this money up. And then we would know that we own our own bank. And so I devised a plan to do something similar to what we did in the presidential campaign. And that is to sell stock at $10 a plan. Excuse me, $10 a share in blocks of 50 for $500 each. And so that was something people felt that they could do, and if they could do more, they did more. And we raised initially something like $3 million from the community at $10 a share. And I tell you,
that was the requirement.
That's right, that was the requirement. And so we had the $3 million. And, you know, I used to come and talk on your radio show about, and the people would line up and make their investment. And we had about $3.3 million. And all of a sudden, I take my plan, and I know I had it right, up to Harrisburg to get my charter. And
from the Department of Banking.
Yes, right, to the Department of Banking. And the Secretary of Banking told me, you don't have enough, and you have to raise $5 million. So you're $2 million short. And I tell you, I think I cried all the way back from Harrisburg. It's a wonder I could see to drive down the turnpike, because I couldn't think of how I was going to come back and tell these people who had invested in this bank that we can't have a bank. We still need $2 million. But with your help and others, I just came out and told the public what happened. And people lined up again. And this time, even some of the members of the corporate community bought stock. My own bank gave me $250,000, and other people, I'll never forget the Sisters of Mercy and others came in with big bucks to support the bank. And we got that bank open. We raised $6 million, and we went back to Harrisburg and said, now take that.
You bounced back from another adverse situation.
Yes, yes. There was a lot of diversity and a lot of naysayers, people who say it was not going to happen. There's no way this woman could get a bank going. And I heard the naysayers and I heard a lot of no's, but I believe that there were a lot of yeses also. And I would go back and continue to talk to people about the idea and the importance of having a financial institution that was created by African Americans for African Americans.
Yeah.
And we did it.
With that point, I remember when you were on the radio show, and I don't remember much else beyond this. A person called in, a man called in, and I thought, boy, it's just going to be positive, and he's going to say, hey, you know, some people called and said, keep going, you can do this. Yeah. And he asked him, what makes you think? Remember, this is power thinking. Now, and he said, what makes you think that you can form a bank during a recession? It was a mild recession during that time. And what makes you think? And I went, oh my gosh. And what was your response?
That's right.
I mean, you remember specifically.
I said, it was a lot of prayer. I know we can do this. We can do this. I said, if we can raise that kind of money for a political campaign, we certainly could raise this money to create an institution. And my goal was to create an institution because at the time we weren't creating institutions, and I felt that I wanted to create something that lasted beyond my lifetime for my community, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
You have to believe, Stan. You have to believe you can do it. And my vision, I could see the bank. I really could, in my mind's eye, I could see the bank. And that's what we created. And you recall, it looked like any other bank. And I used to tell my employees the color is green in this institution. The color is green.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it didn't look like, you know, it was the most beautiful bank. I mean, just the layout, the design, it was amazing. I'll never forget that first day, and seeing the smile on your face, having overcome all the setbacks. But tell us this one thing in terms of setbacks or support. You mentioned that your husband at the time wasn't supportive. So what was his view about you being able to start a bank? The person closest to you.
I think he saw me struggling and just had enough of it and wondered why I kept going. And you know, if no matter who it is, if someone in your family doesn't believe that you should keep doing something and you believe in your heart, you just have to do it. And I had to do it. And I used to say to him, but I'm going to do this. And he said, the African American community is not going to support that. They're not going to support it. They don't support anything. And when he said that to me, I made up my mind that we were going to make it happen and show and prove that African Americans, when they want to do something, they can do it. I think that made me want to create the bank even more because he felt so negative about the idea and whether or not I could do it. And that was in my own household. Wow. And so finally, one day I said, this train is pulling out of the station. You better get on this train. Or get on this train or get off.
Fantastic. Well, I think this is a good place to end it. And what this all drills down to, everyone, is that regardless of what you read on Wikipedia with all of the great accomplishments of Dr. Chappell, and we're only at a fraction of it, and we want to be cognizant of your time, that self-efficacy, the belief that you have control over your ability to succeed despite what other people are telling you, even people who are very close to you. If you have that, then you can bounce back. Chances are bounce back from just about anything. Dr. Chappell, thank you very, very much for joining us. It was an honor to end Black History Month and be right at the beginning of Women's History Month. You've done it all. You've done tremendous things. And again, we thank you.
All right. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Great. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. That was the interview conducted on February the 26th, almost 6 years ago, 2020, almost 6 years ago to the day. And I see Christy's comment from Florida. We can do anything. And I certainly agree with that, Christy. Anyone on the phone line, feel free to hit that *6. We're going to be wrapping up pretty soon, and we're into overtime now. So thank you for bearing with us. There was a quote from Gloria Hairston, and it says, "You have favor." And this is about Emma Chappell. She's part of the ancestors now, and but she did what she needed to do, and the United Bank of Philadelphia is still in existence and still serving the community because of her vision, and most importantly, because of her resilience. Gloria Hairston, you have favor, and this is her comment. Gloria, thank you very much. Gloria is vice president at the Winston-Salem, North Carolina Black Chamber of Commerce, of which I'm a member. And she says, given the eras that you served in executive banking and civil rights movements, your resilience and belief in yourself and community, I'm so proud of you. And Stan, thank you so much for sharing the interview. So thank you, Gloria. You're welcome. And I'm so happy that we kept that reporting. Little did I know that Dr. Chappell would join the ancestors a little over a year later, and just a few weeks after I wished her a happy 80th birthday in February of 2021. And, she told me, I'll never forget this. She said, "Hey, I made it to 80. I wanted to get to 80. I made it to 80." And she did. So thank you for your comment there. Thanks for the hand claps, Christy and Christy. Yes, we all thank Dr. Chappell. The question is, folks, what is that big dream that you have? And have you had big dreams, but as you went through those tough times, and family who certainly love you very much, so saw you struggle, and they obviously want the best for you, and they'll say, "Hey, why don't you try this, or why don't you try that? Why are you going through all of this? We love you. You seem to be suffering. Time to do something a little different." Well, I can tell you that obviously it's your decision, but the reality is that nothing comes easy. We would all like to have the easy road. And this is the reason why I decided to embrace resilience. When Dr. Chappell was on my show, I was focused on economics and on finance and license and insurance and investments, and focusing on that as being the solution. But over time, what I felt was that it goes beyond just your knowledge of finance. There's a mindset that is necessary to succeed. And it's not just being positive, but it is being resilient and understanding the elements that we share with you every single week. So I want to thank you all for being with us. Thank you for participating and listening to these interviews, both this morning and this evening. We really appreciate each and every one of you. And each week we will continue to reinforce those essential inner strengths and skills of resilience, so that whenever life throws that curveball, you'll be ready. So thank you very much again.
Q&A session is over.
Sharon Smalls, I see about 3 or 4 wireless callers. Calvin Patterson, former president of the Winston-Salem, North Carolina Black Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for joining us. George Clark, Layla Llewellyn, Greg Jones, everyone else, thank you so much for being with us. Make it a fantastic remainder of the week. And remember, since we spend, like Dr. Chappell, all of our time thinking, right? We have these 50,000 thoughts a day. We must think with power and utilize power thinking. Have a great one, everyone.
Goodbye.
We'll see you. And we'll go to our folks on LinkedIn and YouTube and X and Facebook and Twitch. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Make it a great evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you